Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with this true thing. Money doesn't respond to need. Money responds to value. You don't get paid because you want more. You get because you bring more. If you want to double your income, don't start with the economy. Don't start with your boss. Don't with your job. Start with you. Now hear this, you are not underpaid because you're not working hard. You're underpaid because you're not bringing value at the level that demands more compensation. Hard work is honorable, but it is not enough. Let me prove it to you. Who works harder, bricklayers or billionaires? Who sweats more? Who lifts more? Exactly. Value determines income, not effort. This is a truth that most people overlook because we've been conditioned to believe that hard work alone guarantees success. From a young age, we're taught that if we just work harder, stay later, wake up earlier, and grind more than the next person, success will eventually show up. But in the real world, the world where transactions happen, businesses grow, and wealth is created, effort is not the currency that moves money. Value is. You've probably seen people who work tirelessly, 2 or even 3 jobs, sacrificing sleep, time with family, and personal health just to make ends meet. They do strength of, and yet, despite all their effort, their income barely budges. On the other hand, there are individuals who work fewer hours, yet their income is 20 or even 100 times greater. The reason isn't luck or connections. The reason is value. When you understand this principle, everything changes. Income is a reflection of how much value you bring to the marketplace, and value, in simple terms, is the usefulness of what you provide, how well you solve a problem, meet a need, or fulfill a desire. The greater the impact of your solution, the greater the compensation the market is willing to give you in exchange for it. Let's take an example. Imagine 2 people, one is digging ditches and the other is designing software that saves companies millions in productivity. The ditch digger works hard, no doubt about it. Physical labor, long hours, sweat on the bro, but his value in the marketplace is limited to what the task is worth. The software designer, on the hand, may not work as many hours, may not lift any heavier than a laptop, but the impact of what they create ripples through entire organizations. The market rewards that impact. The market pays for transformation, not perspiration. This doesn't mean effort is useless, but effort without a strategic value creation is inefficient. You can run full speed in the wrong direction and still not make progress. Real growth begins when you stop trying to get paid more for doing more and start finding ways to do something else better that solves the bigger problems. Because the size of your paycheck is directly tied to the size of the problem you solve. Every dollar you earn is proof that you added value to someone's life. You want to earn more, increase the depth, scale, or uniqueness of the value you provide. Ask better questions. Who am I serving? What problem am I solving? How can I solve it faster, more effectively, or with less pain for the client? What would make my offer not just good, but irresistible? Value is not just about skill, it's about relevance. You might be highly skilled at something, but if no one needs that skill, or worse, if too many people offer it for free, then the market won't reward you much for it. That's why it's essential to align your abilities with demand. When you match your unique strengths with a burning need, you step into a position where your value becomes undeniable. And here's something else. Value is not static. It can grow. You can develop it, refine it, multiply it, and reposition it. You're not stuck with the value you have today. You can learn, invest, apply, test, and grow until your value is so high that your income must follow. Because the market doesn't decide your income cap. You do. When you elevate your value, elevate your income. Solve high-impact problems. This is one of the most strategic shifts you can make if you want to significantly increase your income. The world doesn't reward people based on how busy they are. It rewards people based on the magnitude of the problems they solve. The bigger the problem, the bigger the paycheck. And not just any problem. Problems that are painful, urgent, and important to the people who are willing and able to pay for the solution. Most people spend their time solving low-impact problems. These are the kinds of tasks that are either easy to do, easily replaceable, or not mission critical. Think about things like filing papers, answering routine emails, or running errands. These may be necessary, but they're not high value. They're problems that don't create massive shifts when sold. And because of that, the compensation for solving them is relatively low. High impact problems, on the other hand, are those that keep people up at night. These are the problems that businesses lose money over, families argue about, and organizations shift resources to fix. These are the problems that, when solved, create leverage, transformation, or momentum. They change the trajectory of a person's life or the direction of a company. When you position yourself as the person who can reliably solve those kinds of problems, you instantly become more valuable. Look at the highest paid professionals in almost any industry. They see the strength that they're not always the ones with the most credentials or the longest resumes. They're the ones who solve urgent, painful, or expensive problems in ways others can't. A surgeon who specializes in life-saving procedures gets paid far more than a general practitioner. A consultant help a company scale their revenue by millions through one key strategy gets paid exponentially more than a general coach or advisor. The reason is simple. The impact of the problem they solve is much greater. This is why it's so important to choose your problems wisely. Don't just ask yourself, what am I good at? Ask, what problems am I equipped to solve? And how important are those problems to the people I want to serve? Because it doesn't matter how excellent your skill is. If the problem isn't significant, your solution won't be highly valued. But if the problem is critical and you can solve it effectively, the market will reward you handsomely. Another layer to this is urgency. People pay more to solve problems that are urgent. If something needs to be fixed now and the cost of delay is high, they'll gladly pay a premium. Timing multiplies value. When you can step into a situation and deliver a solution under pressure or in a limited window, your perceived value rises. Urgency accelerates the decision to buy and the willingness to pay. The third factor is unique. If you're one of many who can solve a certain problem, your income will be limited by competition. But if you can develop a unique approach, faster process, a more efficient result, something that sets you apart, then solving that high impact problem becomes a unique advantage in the marketplace. Differentiation is part of what makes your problem solving ability more valuable. And finally, scale matters. Solving one high impact problem for one person is good, but solving one high impact problem for many people is powerful. If you can create a framework, a process, or a system that addresses the same high-level issue across a wide audience, you create leverage. That leverage turns your expertise into assets that produce income without constant input from you. That's how you multiply value and multiply income, because high-impact problems solved at scale are what separate high earners from average ones. Package your expertise into systems. This is where real leverage begins. Many people have valuable knowledge, skills, and experience, but they stay stuck in a cycle of trading time for money. The reason is simple. Their value is tied directly to their physical presence or effort. They're delivering results manually over and over again with no scalable way to grow beyond their own energy and hours. But when you package what you know into a system, you create a tool that works even when you don't. A system is simply a repeatable process that produces a predictable result. It takes your knowledge and organizes it in a way that others can use, learn from, apply, or benefit from without requiring you to be present every single time. That's how people move from being workers to being wealth creators. Instead of solving a problem once for one person, they solve it in a way that can be multiplied, reused, and distributed. This is how you transition from service provider to value multiplier. Packaging your expertise into a system doesn't mean you have to become a software developer or build some complex platform. It can be as simple as turning your process into a framework, a step-by-step guide, a course, a template, a diagnostic tool, or a method that others can follow. It's about extracting what you do naturally and translating it into something teachable, scalable, and repeatable. Let's say you're a consultant and you help companies improve team productivity. If every time you work with a company you start from scratch, you're reinventing the wheel and limiting your income to the number of clients you can personally serve. But if you develop a system like a 5-step productivity framework, complete with tools, scripts, training videos, and a tracking dashboard, you've now created an asset. That asset can be sold, licensed, or implemented by others. It can serve 10 people or 10,000. And the value is in the system, not just in your presence. This is why systematizing your knowledge is so powerful. It takes what's intangible, your experience, your insights, your instinct, and makes it tangible. It allows others to get results through your process without needing to understand everything you know. Systems simplify complexity. They create clarity and consistency. They allow others to follow a clear path and avoid common pitfalls. And most importantly, they allow you to scale your value beyond your time. Systems also elevate your authority. When you have a clearly defined method or process, people see you not just as someone who knows a lot, but as someone who has a proven approach. It builds trust. It gives people confidence in your ability to deliver results. It becomes your intellectual property, something uniquely yours that no one else can replicate exactly the same way. And in a crowded marketplace, that differentiation is priceless. Another benefit of systems is automation. Once you have a repeatable process, you can delegate or automate parts of it. You can train a team to run the system. You can plug it into software. You can turn it into an online experience. You can deliver value without being involved in every transaction. That's how true business freedom is built, when your value delivery is no longer limited to your direct effort. The beauty of this approach is that it creates exponential opportunity. When people interact with your system, they don't just see a product or service, they see a pathway to transformation. And when they get results, that builds credibility and creates referrals. The system becomes a marketing tool, a training tool, and a revenue engine all at once. And the more refined and results-driven your system is, the more people will be willing to pay for access to it. Elevate your self-belief and identity. Everything you earn, create, and attract in your life flows from how you see yourself. If you see yourself as average, you'll settle for average outcomes. If you see yourself as valuable, capable, and worthy of more, you will begin to take actions and make decisions that align with that belief. Income follows identity. What you believe about yourself creates the ceiling of what you'll attempt, tolerate, and ultimately achieve. Most people try to increase their income by changing strategies, learning new skills, or chasing new opportunities, and those are all important. But if the underlying identity hasn't shifted, none of those things will stick. You cannot consistently outperform your self-image. You might have a temporary breakthrough, but if your identity is stuck in the past, it will pull you back down like gravity. Your results will always normalize to the level of belief you hold about who you are and what you deserve. This is why people can attend a seminar, read a book, or have a moment of inspiration and make a temporary shift. They get excited, take action, see a bump in results, and then drift back to their old patterns. The reason isn't lack of information, it's identity. They're still carrying the same internal picture of themselves. If you want lasting external change, you have to build a new internal standard. You must upgrade your identity to match the level of success you're pursuing. Self-belief is not about pretending you're better than others or faking confidence. It's about deeply knowing your value, your potential, and your power to grow. It's recognizing that the version of you today is not the limit of what's possible. It's understanding that you can become the kind of person who attracts higher level opportunities, makes bigger decisions, and demands more from life, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with your purpose. People who elevate their income consistently do so because they operate from a different baseline of identity. They don't wonder if they're worthy of being in the room. They know they bring value. They don't hesitate when it's time to make a bold move. They trust their preparation. They aren't limited by the opinions of others because their self-concept is stronger than external criticism. That kind of belief doesn't happen by accident. It's built brick by repeatedly choosing growth over comfort. This is why personal development is not optional if you want to increase your income. You have to feed your mind with better input. You have to challenge your assumptions. You have to confront limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering truths. You have to see yourself not as you've always been, but as the future version of who you're becoming. That mental shift changes everything from how you show up in a room to how you price your services to how you respond when faced with fear. Your internal dialogue matters. What you say to yourself when no one else is around is shaping your outcomes more than any external factor. If your inner voice is constantly reminding you of past failures, you'll play small. But if your inner voice affirms your capacity, your growth, and your calling, you'll move with courage. And when you move with courage, you attract opportunities that timid people never see. You also start setting higher standards. You stop tolerating environments, relationships, and behaviors that are beneath your vision. You begin to walk away from anything that doesn't align with where you're going. That clarity gives you focus. That focus gives you power. And with that power comes action, the kind of action that changes the direction of your life. Sell outcomes, not hours. This principle is the difference between staying stuck in a cycle of trading time for money and stepping into a position where your income reflects your impact. Most people are taught to think in terms of time. Hourly rates, shifts, days worked, and overtime, but the marketplace doesn't truly value your time. It values the results you produce during that time. When you shift your focus from selling time to selling transformation, your perceived value increases exponentially. Clients and customers are not buying your time. They're not buying your credentials. They're not even buying your process. What they really care about is the result. They have a problem and they want it solved. They have a goal and they want to reach it faster. They're not interested in how many steps it takes or how long it takes you to do it. They're interested in whether you can deliver the outcome they're looking for. When you become known as the person who delivers specific, measurable outcomes, you become irreplaceable. Let's take an example. Imagine two people offering the same service. One says, I charge $50 per hour. The other says, I help business owners increase their profits by 30% within 90 days. Who do you think commands more attention, trust, and ultimately higher compensation? The first person is selling time. The second is selling a result. The difference isn't in the skill, it's in the positioning. When you communicate in terms of outcomes, you speak the language of value. Selling outcomes also changes the way people perceive your pricing. When you charge based on time, people start doing mental math. They compare you to others. They focus on cost. But when you charge based on the result, the conversation shifts. It's no longer about what you cost. It's about what you're worth. If your solution generates a $50,000 in value, it no longer matters whether you took 10 hours or 10 minutes. The value is in the transformation, not the time it took to create it. This mindset also frees you from the limits of time. There are only so many hours in a day. If your income is tied to hours, you have a built-in cap on your potential. But when you focus on outcomes, you can begin to scale. You can create packages, programs, or products that deliver results without your constant involvement. You can work with more people without burning out. You create leverage because the value is not in your presence, but in the solution you offer. Another important shift that happens when you sell outcomes is that you start attracting higher quality clients. People who want to pay for time usually want to control how that time is spent. But people who want results are looking for leadership, clarity, and speed. They're not interested in micromanaging. They're interested in getting to the finish line. These clients tend to respect your expertise more, pay more, and stay longer. To sell outcomes effectively, you need to be crystal clear on the problem you solve and the result you deliver. Vague promises don't sell. Specific results do. You must define the transformation in terms that your ideal client understands, values, and desires. Whether it's more revenue, better health, less stress, improved relationships, or faster systems, the outcome must be framed in a way that feels real and important to them. This approach also requires confidence. You have to believe in the value of what you offer. If you're uncertain about your ability to deliver outcomes, you'll default to selling time because it feels safer. But when you truly know the power of your solution, you can stand in that value and charge accordingly. You stop apologizing for your prices and you start owning the results you create. Transformation attracts compensation. In every market, industry, or profession, the individuals and businesses that create real, lasting change are the ones who command the highest rewards. People don't pay for activity. They pay for results that improve their lives in a meaningful way. When you help someone move from where are to where they want to be, that shift, whether physical, emotional, financial, or relational, has value. And the greater the shift, the greater the compensation. The reason transformation is so valuable is because most people are stuck. They're stuck in patterns, problems, or pain they don't know how to solve on their own. They see the strength of it. They've tried things, failed. They've lost time, energy, and money. When someone shows up with clarity, insight, and a path to break through, it feels like freedom. And that feeling of progress is powerful. People don't just want information. They want movement. They want to be different. They want to live, feel differently, and perform differently. That's what transformation offers. Most professionals focus on delivering services, not shifts. They talk about what they do instead of what it does for the client. But when you understand that transformation is the product, not the service itself, you begin to communicate, package, and price your work differently. You no longer compete with others who offer similar services because you're not selling the service. You're selling the new reality the service creates. And that's a completely different level of value. Think about industries like fitness, coaching, therapy, consulting, even tech. The top earners are those who connect their offer to a meaningful transformation. They see this not the workout program, it's the new body and confidence. It's not the business audit, it's the boost in revenue and clarity. It's not just the app, it's the time saved and frustration avoided. When you link your offer to a clear before and after, experimentation rises because the perceived value skyrockets. Transformation is also emotional. They see the strength of it's not just about external results, it's about how people feel as a result of the change. Do they feel safer, freer, more powerful, more hopeful? Emotional shifts are just as valuable as technical outcomes. And in many cases, they see the strength of even more so. When people believe you can help become a better version of themselves, they'll pay for that belief. They're not just buying what you do, they're buying who they get to become. This is why storytellers, leaders, and communicators are often some of the highest paid individuals. They have the ability to cast vision, spark change, and move people toward action. They inspire internal transformation that leads to external behavior shifts. They help people reimagine what's possible. And because that kind of transformation is rare and powerful, it attracts premium compensation. But attracting compensation through transformation requires responsibility. You must deeply understand the people you serve. You must know what they want, what's blocking them, and what it will take to move them forward. You can't offer surface level solutions and expect deep rewards. The market knows the difference between shallow promises and real transformation. Your offer must be built on substance, proven strategies, authentic empathy, and a clear path to results. Transformation also requires commitment on your part. You can't just dabble in your craft and master it. You must be obsessed with getting people real outcomes. You must constantly refine your approach, test your process, and find ways to serve at a higher level. When you are devoted to delivering change, not just content, the market will compensate you accordingly. People are willing to invest significantly when they believe that investment will produce a meaningful return in their life. The deeper the pain you help them escape, or the greater the gain you help them achieve, the more value you hold in their eyes.